focusing on the connection, focusing on the energy that's moving, the pleasure that's moving. And yes, orgasms are a part of that, an amazing, incredible part of it that we absolutely want to have, but there's so much more. Hello. Hi.
How are you today?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm great. Yeah. So, hi everyone. Welcome to our IG Live. Today we are speaking with Sarrah Rose. She is a men's sex coach, a tantric practitioner, and the founder of Tantric Activation. She developed her techniques by mixing her studies of Tantra with evolutionary biology and adapted all that for practical use in the modern world. Since we're discussing healthy masculinity throughout April, we thought that Sarrah would be a great fit for this conversation, and I really am excited to get diving into all of this juicy content. Thank you for being here, Sarrah.
Yeah, I'm excited. Thanks for having me. I love this conversation.
Yeah, so first let's start off a little bit with what do you do at Tantric Activation? What are you all about there?
Yeah, so Tantric Activation is my company. I work with men and with women both, but it's all about how to have amazing pleasure, amazing sex lives, how to have incredible intimacy and connection when you're in relationship with people, because it's so sad to be with somebody and you just feel like you can't reach them, like you can't reach their soul, you can't reach their heart, like there's this wall between you and the other person. And sex is such an amazing, beautiful thing for us to be able to share with each other. And so I really help people get to the heights of ecstasy, and they can do it on their own and they can do it with a partner.
Yeah, and kind of a sidebar, I know that a huge thing is like it's not about the orgasm. So when you say like reach the height of ecstasy, is I think a lot of people immediately are like, okay, achieve the best orgasm. But from what I've read on your website, like that's not really what this is all about.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, orgasms are amazing, and we definitely enjoy having orgasms during sex, but what has tended to happen in modern culture, which is actually better than we were before, which was female orgasm didn't matter at all, now we're tending to be more in this place of men being very goal-oriented towards giving their partner an orgasm, which is great that they care, and they want their partners to orgasm. But when we're very goal-oriented during sex, it becomes very performance-based. It can become even almost egotistical and like, how am I doing, that kind of thing, rather than just really being present in the moment, focusing on the connection, focusing on the energy that's moving, the pleasure that's moving. And yes, orgasms are a part of that, an amazing, incredible part of it that we absolutely want to have, but there's so much more.
I love it. So you kind of touched a little bit on my next question, which is we have heard so often in our culture, in our society today, the phrase toxic masculinity. I feel like we use it quite often. But I don't personally notice the term healthy masculinity really being used or carried with the same cultural norm that toxic masculinity does, which is kind of sad. So I'd love for you to share, what does healthy masculinity look like for you, and like how does that relate to the work that you're doing?
Yeah, so unfortunately, I think in society we tend to focus on the negatives more than the positives. And especially right now, there's a definite trend towards, I understand all the dismantle the patriarchy and, that type of thing that's held women back for so long. And a lot of the work that I do with women is helping them heal from that. A lot of men that I work with is also helping them heal from it. Patriarchy has damaged men just as much as it has women. But unfortunately, what has come along with that is a lot of male bashing. And my perspective perspective on it is, as a strong, empowered woman that is healthy, that has done my personal development work and integrated my wounding and all this, I want healthy, strong, empowered men in the world alongside with me. Like, I find that to be really sexy and attractive. And so as I always encourage women that have that anger towards the masculine, and I totally understand where it comes from, right? Like, I totally get it. But it is like, if we're putting men down, if we're bashing them, if we're always hating on men, how are we going to get them to rise up? Like, that, it's not going to get us what we actually want, you know? And so I really encourage women to see, like, how can we do our own healing work, and how can we encourage men to heal as well, so we can all come together. And, you know, I think that's what healthy masculinity is. And there's a lot of really amazing men out there. It's just unfortunate that the ones that do display toxic traits, that are the abusers, that are the narcissists, they get so much attention because they do so much damage, you know. And then the good guys, you know, they just don't get the same kind of attention. But there are a lot of really amazing ones out there, and I'm fortunate to be able to work with them.
Yeah, so it kind of sounds like you're saying, like, the healthy masculinity comes with healing and with mutual healing. Because, of course, like, yes, women for so long have been put down and abused and oppressed, and we are working through a lot of healing, but, you know, in a more restorative justice angle, it would be thought of as, like, we can't heal, like, mutually, like, separate from each other. We have to heal together,
Right.
as the offender and the victim, even if you're not actually, like, an offender. But I love that you're mentioning healing work, because the next question was actually, like, how do we support men who are trying to regain a healthy relationship with their masculinity? It kind of sounds like you would say healing, but what does that look like? How do we offer space and support?
Yeah, so men definitely need space to do this kind of work. It seems like, you know, in society, there are a lot more places for women to do this type of work. And so I love offering a space for men that, you know, that, like, they're dudes, you know, like, they're not often woo-woo land or, you know, anything like that. Like, the guys I work with are typically, like, what most people would just consider, like, all American guys, you know, that they're just, like, one guy I work with, he's a farmer. I worked with guys that are, like, tattoo artists, like, you know, just, they're not, like, off in spiritual land running off to Bali with their long hair and their flowy pants, you know, like, that's kind of the stereotype we've had in the past of, like, the men that practice tantra or, you know, do any type of work around spirituality, like those, and like, that's great that those guys are doing it, but, like, a huge majority of the male population is excluded from that. And so, like, but I like to give a place for guys to just come in, and they're just, like, real men with families and kids and, like, real struggles, and, like, it's just a place for them to come and have space and be heard and be seen, and being given practices that they can do that will actually really transform their lives and their families. I've got one client, his marriage was literally on the brink of ending, and he has children, and, you know, they've got their entire life was about to just be split apart. And 2 months into the program, and he and his wife are doing amazing now, you know. And so the type of work is completely transformational, like, literally can transform your life in as little as 2 months.
And what is that program that you're mentioning?
So that's my Man on Fire program. That's a 6-month group coaching program for men. And it's just all about communication and intimacy, and, like, how men and women can relate to each other in a way that they actually feel seen, heard, loved, safe, like they belong with their partner. Like, being seen by your partner, being heard by your partner. These things sound so basic, but they're incredibly difficult and just not existent in most relationships. Most of the time when people are in long-term relationships, their partner is actually the one that they have the most difficult time communicating with, especially around, topics such as sex and what they really desire in the relationship. People just shut down because they're afraid of rocking the boat. And when they do that, the relationship just dies. It becomes stagnant. There's no flow of energy between the two people.
So you would say that a lot of the times people are coming to you because they're having difficulty connecting with their partner?
Yeah, well, it shows up in a lot of ways. A lot of men come to me because they have struggles in the bedroom, such as performance anxiety, which can show up as delayed ejaculation, erectile dysfunction, premature ejaculation. They may have porn addiction, things like that. And so they typically will come in, or they're in a relationship where their partners just stopped wanting to have sex with them. That happens quite a bit because, as women, when we're having sex and the sex doesn't feel good and it's actually like we don't get satisfied, our bodies shut down. Our bodies no longer desire to have sex. But if a woman is sexually satisfied, she is going to be wanting to have sex all of the time, right? Like a turned on woman, a woman that is getting the sex that really lights her up, that really is like, oh my God, yes, she's going to want sex, And so a lot of guys, they just don't have the training. And it's not that they don't want to satisfy their partners. They just don't know how. So I work with them and help them. This one particular client that I was just discussing went from, they were having sex once every couple of months to now 3 times a week. And this is just after 2 months in the program.
Wow. So a lot of what you're doing, it sounds like, is helping heal or work through something as adults. Is there a way we can support men and women from birth so that they don't have to later in life then work through this and heal this much?
Yeah, so I think hopefully, knock on wood, future generations will have less challenge around this. I mean, we have so many social changes happening currently, and that have been going on for the past 70 years, right? And so it's massive, massive change that's been going on culturally and socially. And a lot of that, comes the religious programming of the past, that doesn't have the same sort of stronghold over people, the current generation as it did in the past. And, so things are changing. I will say, a negative part of what is going on in current society is the such ease of access to porn. I do think that is detrimental to our sex lives, just because, not that porn itself is bad and, easy access to porn and sex workers, there have actually been studies that have shown that it reduces sexual violence in society. So it's not that it's bad or wrong, but a lot of guys are finding that they watch it so much that it's really causing a disconnect in the bedroom, that the way their brains are being programmed to have sex and experience their sexuality, it makes it difficult to connect when they're having sex with a woman. And women are feeling the pressure to perform like the women in porn, and men feel the pressure to perform like the men in porn and to look like that, to have that, penis size. So that's a difficulty that we're currently facing. And, so I think there's always going to be challenges, but the more we talk with people, with kids in a healthy way, and I love how there's new types of education when it comes to boys in school around consent and what it means to be to interact with girls and things like that. So, we have to teach. We teach.
I agree 100%. I'm curious what you think of. You've mentioned consent and education. What are some other traits of someone who has a healthy relationship with their masculinity?
Yeah, communication, consent, really just knowing themselves. Like personal development work is really such an important part of being able to be in a healthy relationship and just to be a healthy, integrated human being. Is like I do a lot of what's called shadow work with my clients, where it's like looking at these dark places, these dark parts of themselves that they want to avoid, but then that ends up being what actually controls them. And so we do a lot of work around healing our shadows, integrating our shadows, so we can be just more empowered, more conscious, more aware of our lives in the day-to-day, moment to moment. And that helps in all aspects of our life, like when it comes to business, when it comes to parenting, when it comes to relationships, how you're having sex. So I would say that's a really big deal.
Yeah, and if anyone who's watching right now hasn't heard of shadow work, like look into it. It's really powerful stuff, and it can have huge benefits to you, though it is a bit intimidating of a process. As we're wrapping up, I want anyone who's listening to just drop some questions in the chat if you have any. I'll be happy to share them. But in the meantime, what are some misconceptions that men often have in regards to like having healthy sexual relationships when they join your program?
Yeah, I mean, most of the time, guys think that sex should look like what they see in porn, and just need to realize that porn is they're actors, right? Porn actors are actors. We don't see Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible like do all of his tricks and think that we're going to do that stuff at home. Like we realize it's just there as for entertainment. And porn is also designed, it's supposed to be for entertainment, but we, for some reason think that it's supposed to be real life. And it's not. Like there's a lot of props that they're using. It's a huge budget that they're working with. And, they've got Viagra and they've got squirting things and, I don't even know what all they've got going on. But like that's not how real sex looks. And sex like that does not feel good to a woman. You're not going to satisfy a woman if that's how you're having sex. It's actually very, very painful for her. So men, I would just say slow way down. I was actually talking to guys in my group yesterday, and one of them asked a question similar to that, and I was like, went through this whole thing, but at the end I said, basically, you're going to take 100 times longer than you think you should.
Yeah, it's true. That's great. I wonder, like, in all of this, which is so great, and clearly, like, what seems to be the path is that men need to take that step to choose to be working on themselves. But is there a way we can engage with men who aren't living in this healthy balance with their masculinity?
Sorry, can you describe that a little bit more?
Yeah, like how if we, let's say we're in a relationship with someone and don't want to use the word toxic masculinity because we're talking about healthy masculinity, but let's say they're exhibiting traits of like having a toxic relationship with their masculinity. How can you work with them or present that to them in like a way that would engage them?
Yeah, I mean, they have to be willing and wanting change first and foremost. Unfortunately, I find that, people that are really in that, like it can be difficult to reach them. It can be difficult for them to really get or even desire change. So the desire has to come first and foremost from them. And like if somebody wants to make change in their life, they absolutely can. But you can present options to them, but yeah, I tend to just, put my focus on the guys that are like really, really wanting this, because I feel like there's actually more of them out there, and the more I empower them, the bolder, more stronger, like more visible they become in the world, then they're going to make a bigger impact and they'll be able to stand up to the others.
Totally. And hello to those in the chat who are just joining. So as we start to wind down, I just want to ask, is there anything that you would like to share about the work that you're doing, how people can reach out and interact with tantric activation?
Yeah, so my website is tantricactivation.com, TANTRIC activation.com. I've got couple different programs for men and then a couple different programs for women as well. And yeah, it's really just, it's a place to come and learn how to have incredible sex and also, keep it fun. It's kind of like a modern version of like, I don't want to say sex therapy and scare people off, but like, you don't have to go sit in like a therapist chair and this whole one-on-one thing in a sterile office. Like you can come and work through your shit and, have a great time with it.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I hope everyone goes and checks out the work Sarah's doing. Thank you, Sarah. I hope you have a lovely day.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Bye, everyone.